So the Democratic Republicans believe that the basis of the economy should be agricultural, based on the old traditions of how the 13 colonies were originally founded in the South. And because of that, they're sort of opposed to the national bank. They also are falling under the leadership of Thomas Jefferson, who thinks that America should align itself with revolutionary France. So they're opposed to creating a new treaty or a new alliance with Great Britain. They see Britain as just in the way, harassing their ability to ship. So there's a lot of differences between the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. The Federalists are the strongest in the northeastern states, and they really advocated the growth of federal power. The Democratic Republicans were strongest in the southern states and then out on the western frontier, and they argued for states' rights. By the time George Washington is leaving office, the two major political parties were already taking shape and becoming a little bit better organized. In that year, President Washington announced that he intended to retire to private life right at the end of his second term. So he was assisted by Alexander Hamilton when he wrote his farewell address. The farewell address would actually be published in newspapers in late 1796. And in that message, which had, enormous influence because of Washington's prestige, the president spoke about policies and practices that he considered to be unwise. He warned Americans not to get involved in European affairs. He also said not to make permanent alliances in foreign affairs. Domestically, he said not to form political parties, and he said not to fall into sectionalism. Sectionalism is this idea that Americans were becoming more loyal to the section or region in which they lived than they were to the country as a whole. For the next century or so, future presidents would sort of heed Washington's warning against permanent alliances. They heed it almost like gospel. However, in the case of political parties, Washington was already kind of behind the times because political parties were well on their way to becoming a vital part of the American political system. One long-range consequence of Washington's decision to leave office after two terms was that later presidents followed his example. Presidents elected to two terms, including Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, and Jackson, would voluntarily retire, even though the Constitution placed no limit on a president's tenure in office. The two-term tradition continued unbroken until 1940, when Franklin Roosevelt won election to his third term. Then eventually the 22nd Amendment would be ratified. That happens in 1951, and that made the two-term limit a part of the Constitution.